The main item on our agenda today is going to be the annual reports, which are, we have to turn over then to the county commissioners, and then they have to approve. Moved on to the state by loading them onto the gateway for the process we've used in years past. Long-term plans, back to, okay. All right, let me make one kind of overview comment about these reports. As you are aware, these TIF districts have origins at different points in time, varying levels of activities. One of the things I noticed as I was going through them is that the reports themselves have different kind of forms, particularly in the beginning, in terms of what gets divulged and what doesn't get divulged. And as a general comment, it would be nice if we had the same kind of information for each of these reports. I think the one for large one for the west side probably has the most information since it's been they're the longest and been accumulating it. And I noticed that there is a allocation area definition for that TIF. There are various funds that are applicable for that particular TIF. There's kind of history of some of the major issues heard, which are of current information. There's notice about insufficient funds. And then there is the summary of findings. I don't, for these other reports, notice that kind of delineation of the allocation area and talking about it. And I did not find for any that we knew from this, when the TIF began and when the TIF is going to end. That kind of information I think would be helpful in these reports, particularly in terms of making them look the same for us. That's possible to do.
I certainly think some of that can, beginning date, ending date, those kind of things are kind of known items, and we can certainly. Right. The West Side TIF is always going to be different. That's the one we have bonds out there that require us to do disclosures and things through the federal process. The bonds and the others, I think, are much more developer-backed bonds and things where we have that market presentation of debt that people are buying. The others are kind of bought. Right. There's just a little different nuance to that, and that's probably is why some of the information.
Right. Yeah. It would be nice, though, for the public if they kind of were able to look at these and say, oh, okay, that one's like this one's like this one started then, this one started there. I'm not even sure it tells us in both cases where the developer has purchased the bonds. I may have. That nuance is not quite clear to someone who's looking at these. But what order do you want to proceed?
Well, the preference that I would have would be start with the Curry, and then probably go to the Fullerton Pike, and then the west side, and then the...
We're going to do Curry, Fullerton, Bloomington Township, end up with the west side. Okay? We still don't have anybody online to do the presentation, do we?
All right. Well, I will continue, and then when he comes on, he can correct everything.
Okay.
Say.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So we'll start with the Curry Profile TIF District. This was created, I believe, in 2018 when a developer bought the former GE site, and it was 2 parcels, and at that point in time, they had huge plans, great plans. We were really excited to see what they were going to do with it. And so they bought it. We could put a TIF district in. We issued up to $6 million in bonds. We only do the closing cost because shortly the developer did a lot of work on the property, and it kind of, property ended up right now, it's part of the Simtra family, and the Simtra is going into this to do quite a few manufacturing lines, and the work that the previous developer, which was Cook Group, what they put in the building made that transaction ultimately possible, and it attracted this business into this facility that had really major issues and needed a lot of work. And so in some respects, it still was a great thing that all occurred, because that property would not be where it's at today if it hadn't occurred. But in 2020, COVID issues, the development stalled, and that the developer decided that they weren't going to be able to continue to use the property due in a business decision. They didn't draw any of the money. They had a pretty sophisticated abatement schedule that they did not utilize because they realized that they weren't going to investment. So that was how this TIF district was generated. We have accelerated the payments as much as we could to get the bond paid off so we can get it off our books, get it off the developer's books. We have $10,600 left in that. When the purchaser Simtra purchased the property, and they're doing a lot of work, they also got a lot of abatements, right? They got an abatement package that was probably the most generous that the county has given, but it also had a lot more requirements from the business than we've ever required of anybody else for an abatement. So I think at the end of the day, we gave more, but we got more. And so I think that was a good thing. So as far as long-term plans for the allocation area, I think at this point it's to get the Cook bond paid off. I think this is also an area where, as we do more phase 2 or phase 3 of the Curry reconstruction, I think this able to support that to the extent they have revenues. But right now, the revenues are not going to come in very quickly because of the abatement act. Well, so I think that's kind of the long-term plan. And as far as going off the impact on each of the taxing units, this is a 2-parcel TIF. I think the impact of the taxing units are going to be nominal at best. I think without this TIF district and without the incentives that were created when this was created, the property would not be where it's at today. So any impact, I think long-term, the impact of this TIF district is going to be very good. The taxing units, it's just a matter of getting that property up and going. Okay, Charlie is on. Sweet. Charlie, I just finished Curry Profile TIF District.
We want to note that Randy Cassidy has shown up. Yep.
That sounds good. This is Charlie. Can you guys hear me?
Okay.
Yes, we can. I don't know.
Is it a straight line abatement for the entire 10 years? Graduated.
Kind of neither, right? What it is it's I think it's a very high for at least the first 3 years, and then there is a commitment of the business that if they put in another line within the first 3 or 4 years, I don't remember, then it remains at a high rate, and that second one will start at the high rate, and then that repeats a couple times, so that at the end of the day, the first 10 years of the initial abatement has the potential to be very high, not 100%, but like 90, 80, somewhere in that range. And then each additional ones have the ability to stay higher until the last one, which will just, I think, standard abatement, because there's nothing there there's not a further action that would push it higher.
Right.
So it's
Tiered approach.
well, it's an incentive approach, right?
Yeah,
If they meet their incentives, the abatement stays high.
Statement starts to decrease.
Right.
So there will be some income from it because they're not at 100%.
Well, the first year, I think they are, right? I think all abatements start first year 100%. But there will be, it won't be 10 years of 100%.
So there is in this then a service schedule put in here for the 10,600, which is not going to happen because we're not going to pay them $133 twice a year. We do have some funds available. Now have 21. So our plan for the current year is to pay that $10,660 and let it start accumulating again to be used for things like the Curry Pike, which is adjacent to the property.
Correct.
And we can use it. But we're not going to have much money coming in to do the Curry Pike first few years. What's our plan for that money after the Curry Pike is done? Do we have a plan?
I'm not aware of what that plan would be. Okay. Right. When we set this district up, it was to support the exterior of that facility, and that is not kind of in the cards for that right now. I think that's a great thing to have Lisa Ridge look at. And
now, could Simtra potentially buy a bond from us which would cover whatever they're paying in taxes to get their taxes? Property?
I mean, that's a potential. I guess at this point, I mean, you just expressed we're getting $10,000 to $20,000 in revenue a year. I'm not sure it's worth the cost of issuance right at this point.
Right.
But at some
point. So at that point, though, does revenue that we should be giving back?
I think it could. I think Cook still owns that. It's a 2-lot. I think Cook still owns a second. I would really want to have conversations with both Simtra and Cook to see what kind of needs they see in that area. I'd also really like to talk to Lisa Ridge to see what kind of support she thinks, particularly the Curry Profile intersection.
Did Simtra buy both lots or just the one?
Just the one.
Okay, so the one that's in the back that Cook did some work on. So that's going to generate some income.
I think Cook kept the parking lot. That's the second lot. I think Simtra bought all the buildings. I think the second lot is kind of the one closer to the Cook's campus that is essentially parking.
So from the stoplight north, right? If Cook held on to the parking lot, is that what you're talking about?
The parking lot on the west side, which was the old General Electric that it enters off of.
There's a building in
Is
there.
it-
Oh, what is the road? What is the road Mike Curry lived on, right there?
that-
No, it's profile off of
Dana
Daniels
Farm.
Road.
Oh,
Next
oh,
one
oh,
to
oh.
the next one to the east. There's that road, and then the parcel itself is where the retention pond,
Right.
The X's are.
where the
Okay.
excess is. Right.
Yeah,
Did they take down that
I got
other
you.
building that was
Okay.
there
There,
then?
there was no building on that particular.
There's 2 buildings on the what I'm calling the Simtra parcel. There's still 2 buildings.
Actually, 3.
Well, if you get 2 manufacturing, and then there's like a utility
Then
building.
there's the central plant. Yes.
Right.
Okay, that central plat then is on the parcel that was purchased. The other one is vacant or has a parking lot.
I think it's utilized for parking.
So, but it does generate a little bit of income.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would then accumulate, figure out what we're going to do after. But because we'll have to make that decision next year if we pay that bond off. have to make that decision about what to do next.
Right now, there's approximately $40,000.
And
10.
10 total. So
I think we're the plan is to get that paid off this year.
Yeah, we'll pay that off this year, and then we'll,
do that, we look at the revenue and see what the bonding. We ask Semtra and Cook what their infrastructure needs are in order to support their facility. If there would be a potential possibility of bonding on it. Well, basically.
so little money.
Yeah.
Now, we will have we'll have a couple of years of Curry Pike work. So whatever is there for the next 2 or 3 years, at least, is.
Yeah, and I think Lisa would be who I'd first ask about, because I remember when she was there, then also after Cook purchases, there were railroad track issues, dealing with electricity, there's just kind of just
We got
strange
the
things.
sidewalk along Curry, we got the plot along Curry, there's plenty of places to put the money.
And it's not that much money, it's just a matter of how we're going to allocate that, or we're going to use it for something that's going to be a private increase the employment on.
Jeff, so help me out here. In the event of a reorganization of Ellettsville and Richland Township,
Well, it's in Richland Township, that is
Right.
That is true. I haven't seen their final document.
I think they're voting on it or they're reviewing it tonight.
I mean, a lot of it depends on, is this going to be part of the town? There are a lot of rules that says if a area within a county TIF district is annexed, what happens, right? There's not a whole lot of rules on, I don't think that the merger is an annexation of this area, right? So if it's not annexed, I think the rules we have would still apply. But without seeing exactly what they're doing, and I should say I've had a brief conversation with Mr. Farmer. I don't think they have any intention of annexing this area or anything like that. I think their intent is to let the TIF districts continue to do what they do. I think they're looking to do different things, right? So I don't want to. I'm not throwing shade anywhere.
Yeah, I know you're not. And I think based on my conversations with Mike Farmer is being a reorganization, not an annexation.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and if it's not in a municipal limit, then I think the rules don't change. If it were to be annexed and we didn't have debt, then that property would become part of the city or town.
Or the reorganization area for, the Richland
Reorganization areas, I mean, there's just not a lot out there on that, right? And there's not a lot of rules and statute on what happens.
And probably Adams Township in Hamilton County, which they've looked at, right? Sheridan Adams has been the model. I don't think they have this kind of situation. But it helps add clarity if we know this, obviously, for sure, that looking beyond, with the future with Semtra there, we still have.
we have an obligation at the present moment. That obligation's minimal amount at the present moment. So consequently, either way we go, within a year, we would have financial clarity in regards to which way it would go once we pay off that. The only question is talking to Lisa and the other individuals about what public needs.
I'm on here.
Oh, wonderful. Hello, Miss Lisa. Yeah. So,
I need some homework for next year.
yes. Yeah.
And that.
Sorry, I've had my hand raised for a few minutes, so I apologize.
Yeah.
But in that area, when Semtra took over, we did have an agreement with Cook for some improvements. We also, instead of doing the original Vernal Pike Trail connection, we've come up with a different option that would go along Profile Parkway, which is already built, and then go west of Curry Pike and build that trail on the south side of Profile Parkway to connect to the Karst Farm Trail. So that's still out there. Also, the railroad tracks that have been eliminated by the railroad, it would be great to have those removed. We also have Profile Parkway west of Curry Pike on our radar, that it is going to need a reconstruction eventually, just like Curry Pike.
From a money standpoint, Lisa, you're needing the redevelopment to help fund those.
Yeah, that would be, that would be ideal if that would be that. We are still, I don't know how the talks are going. I know planning has been talking with Semtra to see if they would commit to some of those things that Cook had originally committed to. And part of that was that trail on the north side of their property that goes along Profile Parkway. That would eliminate that Vernal Pike Trail project that was going to be like 1.8 million in the west side TIF. And then you would have everything connecting from Bloomington to the Karst Trail.
I would be remiss to not remind people that when the state did Senate Enrolled Act a year ago, they made changes to personal property that do not affect people in a TIF. So there is no floor if you're outside of TIF district, but if you're inside of TIF district that was put in place prior to when they enacted it, then there is a floor for your personal property. So I'm curious how, when we talk to the businesses, I think year 1, year 2, year 3, it's not going to really matter. But year 10, year 15, year 20, there might be some, hey, actually having this in a TIF district is hurting us kind of conversation. So I don't think that's a next 4 or 5 year issue, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
We're looking at, what Lisa's looking at, we're looking at the infrastructure cost. It's a matter of how our bonding costs will be, what our revenues are. And at this present moment, we have a territorial item that needs to be addressed that'll be hit in November. So,
and I'm not even sure what they're doing over there is territorial. Well, I think it might be totally neutral to, my expectation is it would probably be pretty neutral to the TIF
what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's just a matter of where the bonding capabilities are based upon our consistent cash flow is.
I think what will probably end up is, because these areas, anywhere that serves these areas will also serve the west side TIF district. So what I think you'll end up seeing is more cost allocation between those two districts.
Or the bond payments.
Either bond or pay as you go, either way.
Now, is there what we did, reason why we might want to put it back in the west side?
I wanted the same thing.
I would say probably not. We took it out of the west side to give it a longer duration, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So this will give it
well, and to make sure, and to enable the process to occur. I mean, Cook wasn't going to do the whole west side.
No, but even if you left it within that, I mean, we could designate certain areas of that TIF district to pay for certain. It's just the time length was expanded by 2-1. The time length was expanded into the base was at its all-time low because there wasn't anything there anymore. I don't know why you would put it back in, particularly because I'm not sure there's any projects in the west side TIF that we have on the books that aren't physically connected to this district, right? And that's the requirement to utilize the money.
Okay. All right. So we had no changes or corrections in this report other than one I made to make sure that the term of the TIF was identified.
From a sunset standpoint.
Yeah.
Bill, what are we looking at on our Curry Pike TIF?
After 2039, because that's when the schedule's.
Yeah, I think it's 25 years from
2043.
Okay. Yeah. We've got adequate time for tax revenues to be generated and,
All right. One down.
So I guess maybe this What I'm gonna recommend that we do, and this is for the, on the cover page, for this time, put a beginning and end here for each of these.
That's good for everybody to be able to look at it in a very quick view that says this one's gonna go to here, and then they know where the revenues are going in the areas.
Okay, Fullerton Pike is next.
So I'm gonna let Charlie take over unless he wants me to continue.
As long as you guys can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay. I hear a little feedback, but as long as you guys are okay or you don't hear it. All right.
You're fine.
Perfect. And I'm showing my screen. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you've got a copy of the reports, I think.
Yeah.
And Jeff, you did a good job on Curry. Sorry, I was late joining. We just had some technical issues.
That's why I put the easy one first.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. So Fullerton Pike, and I won't go page by page. I don't know if you did, Jeff, or not. But there's a lot here in Fullerton, just like there are in the other TIF areas. The page 3 of the report shows our tax rates. Just want to make sure everybody sees that. Just like in the past, we do not capture the school referendum tax rates. So those are taken out. The schools get to collect all the referendum money, even if it's in a TIF area. And the tax rates have been very stable in this area and really in all of our TIF districts. But for page 26, the tax rate we will collect is 1.2425. Any questions about the tax rate or how that impacts the different entities here?
Well, explain how it's going to impact them in regards to, are you talking based upon where we're on their pay portion? Gross tax rate?
Yes. Yeah. So the main idea with the TIF is that whatever we're capturing would not have been built had we not done the TIF area. So the school and the library and the township, they all get whatever assessed value they had when we created the area. And then in the case of the school, they also get those dollars from the referendum tax rates. We don't get any TIF revenue from that.
Okay, now you have me confused.
Okay.
In the 2026 payable tax rate, you said 1.2425.
Yes.
But in the table on page 5, you're showing a net tax rate of 9,592. The difference being
Right.
The fire
The
district
fire district
has been
yes.
removed.
And yes, and that is also the case. So if it's a fire district, we don't get to collect TIF revenue on that either. That falls into the same category as school referendum.
That's what decreases our total overall collectible rate.
Yeah, and we probably ought to put that on this page 3, the fire district, and just kind of keep those together. That would clarify that a little bit, I think, because that is kind of disconnected.
I looked at these two numbers and they weren't the same, and I said, why aren't they the same? And I finally figured out that it was the fire district.
Yeah. We will, and we want to, I think every year we constantly improve these, and I think the end date of the TIF areas is great to put on the cover, and we'll make this change as well. So we'll have this flow together better.
Right.
So based on looking at, on page 5, we're at 0.9592 actual collectible tax rate.
Correct. That's exactly right. Yes.
That one will be added to page 3 before it's turned in.
Correct.
And the other thing that happens, took a couple of parcels out of this. Well, in 2023, issued these bonds, but the parcel count was different.
Yeah, and we can go back and ask the auditor what happened to those. So I'm looking at page 7. That's the list of parcels. I think you're referring to, there's a parcel Bill Brown Trust and a Busted Block LLC.
I can tell you why they were removed, if that's the question.
Yes, that is the question.
They were removed because they had been annexed into the city. And so since there was no, there were also no increment, nothing had been done. So when they were removed because they were annexed into the city and we didn't have debt on any of the TIF districts. So by statute, when it gets annexed into a city out of a TIF district, unless there's a bond obligation, then it is removed from the TIF district.
Gotcha.
We didn't have a bond obligation at the time.
Correct.
And those were the parcels where a site was proposed for the jail? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Close to the interstate, right? Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's that, and I forget how far north it went from there.
Yeah, it matches up almost to
Yeah.
where the city meets.
It goes up to the back of the Southern Indiana Medical.
That's the park, yeah. Yep.
That makes sense, and we'll add that footnote to page 7 of why those parcels show a 0
Great.
for page 25 and page 26.
Yep.
They came on and then they went off.
Yeah.
Yes, they,
Okay, the other question I had, what's the MPT of Bloomington?
It's at the
That's why you went
hospital,
up
Jeff. Yeah.
$1 million or
Surgery Center.
oh, is that Monroe?
Like, it'd be Monroe Hospital's really the only major.
the hospital.
Their property is adjacent, right?
They,
Yeah, they're in the TIF. It is. Now, Southern Indiana Medical's enters off Tap Road.
I don't think that's in this district.
The Monroe Hospital?
The hospital is in the district.
The hospital's in-
Southern Indiana Medical is not.
Part 2,
Map is on page,
here's our parcel map.
Appendix C is the infrastructure.
these are all south of Fuller. Southern Indiana Medical's north.
Southern Indiana Medical is north of, but there's 2 parcels to it.
Couldn't figure out, because the parcel numbers are not on the map. Are for a couple of them, but not the others. Finally figured out which one was the there's a power station there.
Yeah, Duke's got there, but that's to the south of the Monroe Hospital. Southwest side, as it comes.
But it's designated.
Southern Indiana
As
Medical
opposed to
Park.
Monroe Medical Park.
Right, Monroe what? Monroe MPT of Bloomington, that is the Monroe Hospital. Park 2. Oh, okay. Let's look. Is that the parcel that is to the south of the Monroe Hospital?
Good question.
Well,
I don't have the parcel map.
well, here's our parcel numbers when we look at our Southern Indiana Medical Park. Here's Monroe Hospital at the present moment. This is the Duke substation, the parcel that cuts through, because this is the roadway that extends from Monroe Hospital.
Right, that's the hospital.
That's the hospital, that's the Duke substation.
No,
This is the Duke substation,
Duke's substation is over on the,
right here. Okay,
there.
so let's look at this parcel. Is this the part? This is it right here. By this 008, 059, 000, 008. including that one and the,
64 is the one at the bottom.
right here.
That's this one down here called Southern Indiana Medical Park.
Right, we've also got these other parcel numbers, which is 08 and 64. 64, got 50, 61, 63, 61, 60.
But none of them
58.
are MTP of Bloomington.
59, but that should be right here. It's not parcelized out. That should be. I'm off Fullerton. We have the roundabout, and this is hospital site.
But isn't it a not-for-profit now?
No, AKB Development,
MP.
AKB.
Okay,
This
so we
is
think
up with
that's
the
the
old way.
hospital.
That's the back. There's Monroe Hospital. All of that.
All of it.
All of it is Southern Indiana Medical Park 2. Here's what
Down
he's
in
talking about,
Rockport.
Richard. Here. All Southern Indiana Medical Park.
Yeah, that
Medical
house on
Park
Rockport.
2. And what we're referring to in our dialogue and discussion, thinking Southern Indiana Medical Park 1 off Tap Road, which
It's not in,
is not in
Right,
the
which is
TIF
not
district. Not in the TIF district. We're everything essentially south of Fullerton Pike.
Okay,
It's just,
well, at any point, in any way, the map which is appearing on page is missing parcel numbers. Parcels. Eight, 12 listed. So the listing of the parcels and the map
aren't corresponding.
do not correspond. One of the things that we are told to do in the recommendation is to match up the parcel numbers and the map. And they do not match.
So we need a correction on that.
That needs to get fixed. All right, so there's that part of it. The second issue I had was there is a recommendation that we should use 50% of the annual TIF revenue for the payment of the 2023 bridge bonds. There is a schedule of payments for those bonds, page 6. And it is, this looks like the schedule for the entire bond. It doesn't tell me anything about the schedule of this with respect to our TIF revenue.
Yep, that's a good point of clarification. The way the TIF revenue was pledged was that 50% of the TIF revenue was pledged to the debt service on the bond. So the county auditors should be, and that's why the recommendation is in there, should be using 50% of whatever TIF revenue we bring in to make the bond payment. And whatever is left after that is going to come from the county major bridge fund.
Right, that works for now.
Yeah, but looking at long-term in regards to what we think the overall revenue will be prior to the sunsetting.
Well, if you look at what our TIF revenues have been, it is entirely possible that by the time this bond gets to 29, if revenue will be sufficient to pay the bond,
Off.
okay, to make the bond payments. And I noticed that there's a big difference between the first 5 years and the rest of this bond. Was it the intent, or is it the intent? This district is to take over 100% obligation of that bond at that point?
That was the original intention.
My memory is that the 50% is dedicated to that. While the intent's probably not, the hope may be the better word. Because we've always had the concern with this district with Monroe Hospital, right? What happens when they go not-for-profit? That's always been a concern with this TIF district, in which case the bottom could fall out of the revenues. And so the hope was always that, we front-loaded the payment of the bonds with the hope that once we get through year 5, and Lisa probably may not know off the top of her head, but at that point in time, there was a second or third major bridge fund project that we wanted to make sure we had revenues for, that if we needed the bond for, we could. That was going to be 4 or 5 years down the road.
All right. Some dialogue in this report should reflect that. Otherwise, you look at this and say, well, the bond payments went from $127,000. Wait a minute. What kind of magic happens right there?
Front load everything for the bond in hopes to build up the cumulative bridge so that whenever we have additional bridges that are needed,
We have the
we got
capacity.
the revenue to pay for it, because the first majority of the bridge, or the Florida Pike Bridge, is being paid from a county share standpoint.
Well, and I think the other part of that equation of it reducing is also what we talked about kind of with the annexation stuff, right? And so as long as we have debt on that property in that TIF district, then that TIF district would contain. And I think the other half of that is we also wanted to make sure the debt remained in place for the duration of the TIF district, so we can continue to make whatever improvements we need for the full.
No, makes sense. But this schedule doesn't make any sense at all. Because
It just shows us debt service as opposed to revenue.
It's not showing how much of the debt is anticipated to be paid by the district at any particular point in time. It just says, this is what, and we kick in a little bit here and there if we can. I think it would be better if we actually showed that
We showed what the
the
overall.
reality of the contribution that the TIF district is making, rather than this, well, the whole bond's being paid off by the county and we're going to kick in what we can when we can. Because right now, we did a resolution which takes 50% of our annual revenue. And right now, our annual revenue is roughly 100 and, like it's going to be about 150,000, 160,000, something like that. And so we would take 80,000 of that, or whatever the half of that is, and we'd make that a contribution to the county general. Would work.
I think that the money would go straight to the debt payment. So we cut a check to the debt holder. Part of that funding would come from this fund, come from the major bridge fund.
Okay, so we would have to dedicate, now, so since it's not a precise amount, do we have to, on an annual basis, set that figure as a payment, as a claim, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Now, at present, there is $600,000 sitting in that pot. Are we to take 50% of that?
Just the revenue.
Huh?
Just the revenue, not the principal.
Just the revenue.
Okay.
Okay.
And I believe that I can confirm this with bond counsel. I think what bond counsel had said at the time is that that's available for the bond payment, but as long as the bond gets paid from the sources, you're okay.
Right. So there will be a claim for 50% of revenue that'll come through some point, twice a year? Because we get revenue twice a year? I don't know when, are the bond payments look like they are,
Yeah,
They're
they're
biannual.
twice a year. Yep.
so we're gonna have two claims each year for half of our distributed revenue. Pay this off, right?
And I guess I'd ask Charlie the question of, if the county chose to pay for 100% of this debt from a different funding source, that doesn't violate any pledge or anything like that, is that correct?
That's what we would argue, Jeff. That's a good point. But I think going back to what you said and the way the pledge resolution reads, I think we've pledged that 50% of the TIF revenue because we needed to show that in order to keep those TIF revenues on those parcels if they were annexed. So I think we would want to make those TIF payments on the bonds, if at all possible.
Is there a way you could add a column to this Exhibit E that would have an estimated payments for
Yes,
each?
I think, yep. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it'll be an estimated, because we don't know what our collections are going to be, but just to show that we do have that commitment.
Jeff, I think we also we do have some cash and we don't spend much out of that Fullerton Pike TIF because of this commitment.
Well, I think that the commitment is to pay at least 50%. I think if the redevelopment chose to, they could pay more than that, but I think we should at least get what our commitment is in the paper, and then much like what we did with Curry Pike, if you guys chose to pay additional to free up money in Major Bridge, we could certainly consider that.
Right, so what appears on page 6 would stay there. We just add a column to the right, which is estimated TIF district commitment.
Yeah.
Okay,
And with that, we know exactly where we are from a finance. Additional 50% that we utilize for any other projects that are necessary.
Correct.
that makes me more comfortable.
Our biggest concern on this one is simply a matter of our largest, partner on this, taxpayer.
Which is why we pledged a percentage and not an amount, to be honest with you, is because.
Right. Okay. I'm good with it. So it's the map and modification of schedule on page 6. All right.
All right, that sounds good.
Moving on.
All right, let's go to the big one.
Wilmington Township. Save the west side for the last.
Okay. That sounds good. So, again, I think you guys all have copies of our report.
Yes.
I'm presenting on the screen. This is similar in a lot of ways to Curry Profile in that we have a bond outstanding that could be up to 4.5 million, but the developer has only drawn 61,500 of that so far, and that's the amount that's outstanding. We've paid interest on that every year, but we have not paid any principal down so far. And it's our understanding the developer is still looking at the area, and there is still a possibility that they may have something there that they want to do, that they want to be reimbursed for, some infrastructure and some cost out there, that this still could happen. Although our time is getting short because this one will expire in 2033 when that bond is paid off. So,
And I would give a little update to that. I've seen the emails from the state where they got their last NOMAR, is that the correct word there, Lisa? LOMAR, no, their map
Letter map revision for
Yeah.
Hunter Valley.
for Hunter Valley. So I think that, and I've talked with Mr. Kreider, and I think their intention is to build the project this year. That their last remaining obstacle seems to have been overcome.
So essentially where we're at is just a matter of, approving it as it moves forward from a funding standpoint. Not the bonds.
Yeah, and once he gets started, I will probably have a conversation with you guys, and I'll probably have a conversation with bond counsel. The original amortization schedule, of course, was scheduled based upon a longer payback period to see what the options are. I don't think it's the intent of anyone not reimburse what we can.
Well, there is, okay, so we do have a schedule on page 5 for the existing debt. And then we have another one on page,
Help me out, Richard.
Seven.
Where are you at, my friend?
we have one on 7, and then we have another one on page 8, which looks like it is for the full 4.5 beginning this year.
that is correct. And the one on page 8 is really for illustration purposes, I would say it, and that's assuming that the developer would draw the full 4.5 million. What the payments would be every year after that in order to get the bonds retired on time.
Right, I have no doubt that he will take it all.
Yeah.
Once he gets the project moving, they will take it.
Yep.
Now, what I have a question about is how does what they've drawn already, the 61,500, figure into this amortization schedule? Assuming that the debt already is 61,500, and I don't see that on this schedule, so that's got me a little confused.
It's just assumed to be included in the 4.5 million. It's not broken out separately on the second one.
Okay.
It's just the full 4.5.
So we would assume then that the first principal, well, okay, so it's included in the 4.5. And in page 16. Yes, estimated TIF revenue. So on page 16, you've given us our estimated revenue based upon revenue expectations for 2026, which are considerably less than the debt service which is projected here. Now, as I understand it then, developer ends up eating that. But this only goes through 2030, so there's 3 more years.
Your assumption is correct. I think if we don't get any more build out, if he doesn't build anything else that's taxable, we won't have enough TIF revenue to pay the full bond. If he draws the 4.5 million, yeah. And then the developer eats that because that the only thing that gets paid is whatever TIF revenue comes in.
Right, okay. So it behooves him to either find tenants to use his property or...
So the net effect, just so I'm clear on this, Charlie, is when we're looking at the difference, we're $500,000 short based on what our recent tax revenues. If it doesn't grow from an increment standpoint, there's approximately $670,000 That would,
If I look at on page 9, this is the allocation fund estimates. TIF settlements are running $500,000. So why is
Yeah.
estimated TIF revenue $260,000 on page 16?
We made an assumption that may not be correct that we need to update. We assumed that some of the property was going to be sold to the county for a project. And by doing that, we were going to take some taxable property and make it tax exempt,
that, yeah.
which that may not happen now. So I think we need to look at that and maybe update that projection of TIF revenue.
Yes. Or at least annotate that,
I
Yeah,
guess while we're sitting here and we're going through the fiscal plan of this, Jeff, is that a correct statement? Is there still something out there or for them to correct, to get this correct, or just an annotation on the note?
I would do an annotation because, in my opinion, until a site is chosen, a site's not been chosen. And there are a number of possible sites, and so, you know, where it goes, I have no idea. But I would think that you annotate it this year, the next year you correct the other.
Given the circumstance with the bondholder that's already purchased the bond, hasn't drawn down on it, he's aware of this type of situation.
Yes.
oh, but there is debt on it. There is debt at this. Question is, do we pay off this 61.5 or do we let it hang?
I wouldn't pay it off because he's informed us, or he's informed me that he's going to try to build the road this year, and I'd rather
Have the road.
get the road and get everything.
Right. And since this is a debt on the entire TIF district, anything that gets annexed in that district is still going to be in the TIF.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So it just, I guess the issue is that we would like that annotation on page 16. There'd be a little more emphasis on the speculative or the unknown nature of what's going to happen there.
Yeah, because right now it shows us upside down.
Yep, that's a good point. We will do that.
At least there was something on one of these reports. Where did I see it? Again, you've got the same issue with the net tax rate on page 6.
Yes.
Which
Yep.
is including the fire district, and fire district actually comes out. And it. To make sure that comes out. And Jeff, am I correct that the West River LLC, at the property that the county purchased?
Would not be, I wouldn't.
Page 15. It's a negative $14 million.
That is another parcel. I think it's a senior living center that it looks like has become fully tax exempt for pay 26. We're going to confirm that with the auditor as well, but that's why it went down to 0 for pay 26. So that's a big impact for us.
And the VA is nonprofit anyway.
That sounds more like why it went down from 500 to
Yeah,
250,000.
I think, yep.
That's big.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and that's why we've got the question in on that, because in the past, part of the facility had been given tax exempt status, so we captured most of the AV, but there was some that was tax exempt, but for, as of now, pay 26, it looks like 100% tax exempt, so we will get that resolved before we issue the final report.
I'd like to know that's tax. Yes. That's a big,
Yep.
and as far as now I do know that that facility had some kind of change occur at the middle of last year, because we saw a big difference in their water usage. I mean, it went down by half. I don't know whether there was some transition that occurred there in terms of who owned it. Something like that. But it's a big enough difference. We got to make sure we understand what's going on there.
Yeah. We will definitely do that.
The other thing that I noticed, map, and this is taking the parcels against the map. The map which appears on page, at the end of this, which is going to be page whatever it is, whatever page it is, it's the map. This map does not show all the parcels that are in the TIF, as far as I can tell. Because it is showing the parcels that are in Bloomington Township, but showing the parcels that are in Richmond. There should be a bunch of parcels in Richland Township
That'll be part of that TIF.
that are part of the TIF.
Okay, Lisa or Jeff, can you help us with that map, then get us, yep,
I'll get in touch with John Baton, our GIS coordinator.
Okay, yep.
And have him run, I'm gonna have him run all 4 maps.
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah, and I sent these maps, those, John had sent those to me, in February, that they were all updated, so that came from him.
That particular map is not correct. Okay. Other thing I had, I did have a question. This is for Lisa. On the proposed projects listing, it is showing the extension of Curry Pike, which is now Hunter Valley, as being 4 lanes with intersection turn lanes, et cetera, et cetera. Then there is a note about construction costs. It mixes 2-lane and 4-lane numbers and comes up with a different number.
So I didn't change those because I haven't really been in contact with Steve Kreider. He was in contact with Paul. I don't have the cost estimate that he would need to provide. I can get that updated, but I really haven't been involved in this project. Jeff and Steve Kreider usually contact Jeff Cockrell, and then Steve Kreider would contact Paul. So I can get the most latest update from Steve Kreider.
Okay, that's what we need.
Yeah, and my memory is that once it gets beyond the creek there, it's 2 lanes.
That's what I was remembering as well.
Not 4, it definitely isn't 4 lanes all the way.
Right. So
Yeah,
this,
I think that was just in the original setup.
I was originally supposed to be 4, and then we cut it back down when we didn't have the money.
Correct.
But that note, which is note number 2, underneath that table, that needs to be corrected so that
Okay.
it's clear about what's going on. And then the entry in the table itself needs to be corrected too, because there is I think it's 4 lanes up to the bridge, and then it's
2 lanes after.
2 lanes after that, I believe. But that needs to be corrected
can
in
get
this
that done.
report.
Okay.
All right. So that's what we've got for this one.
All right, that sounds great. We'll get that revised and back out.
Okay.
Are these estimates still good, Lisa?
For West Side? What'd you ask me, Randy?
Are these estimates still, you feel still good? But Hunter Valley?
That's what I want to check with Steve Kreider because he hasn't provided me any numbers recently.
All right.
And yeah.
On to the west side.
On that one, don't we?
All right, that sounds good. So
Okay.
we will, just like we said earlier, we'll make sure on the cover page on all of those, we'll put our expected expiration date. So we'll have that on the west side. That one will be ending.
Okay.
And we do have 2 bond issues outstanding on that district.
Yep.
And in this one, we do have some parcels that the city of Bloomington annexed. So we've got some sharing of revenues, but since we had those bonds outstanding, we got to keep our tax rate, everything except the city. Bloomington gets their portion of the tax rate on those parcels. And it will go to 2039. That's the final payment on both bond issues. So is there certain pages we want to go through on this, or how would you guys like to handle
All right.
this one?
Let's look at the tax rates again,
Okay.
because there's no annotation at the bottom of the tax rate table telling us what gets included and what doesn't get included.
Okay, and that's a good point. So right now, and this would be possibly impacted as we talked about with Ellettsville and the reorganization, but as of now, Richland Bean Blossom does not have, the school district does not have any referendum rate, so we get the full school tax rate, and there is no fire district out there.
Okay.
So we get the full tax rate for this this area.
Good.
But there is a vote tonight on the fire district.
Yeah.
It changes, right?
I think that's territory.
Or the territory.
And
Or territory.
I'm not sure I know the rules aren't totally the same for both the district and the territory. I just don't know how it's affected here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and it would most likely reduce our TIF revenue. We would lose the fire tax rate that's in the township right now. That will go away, and there will be a fire territory rate that we would not collect. They're basically treated the same as fire districts now. That law changed a few years back.
Okay.
So if the territory is successful, that would most likely reduce our TIF revenue in the future.
Is that something we need to look at from a projection standpoint?
We can definitely, we've got a cash flow back in later in the report. We could show the cash flow with that assumption. I think that's a good way to look at it. That's a good point.
There were 2 schedules, one for the 2020 bond.
Yep.
Bonds. Contract
Right.
with each of those. and you give us an estimated debt service coverage, and we've got better coverage now than we've ever had before. The question is, why don't we have any money to spend?
Coverage, we just don't have cash.
Yeah, and we are building our cash back up. So, you know, we did dip down, but when we get back to that cash flow page, you'll see that we are starting to build that back up. Now, Lisa may have some more projects that come into play in the future. We'd kind of stopped, you know, because we didn't have any money to spend.
Always go with it. A couple questions for Charlie. I'm looking at the time coverage, I guess. If our redevelopment commission chooses to do another bond in the future, I mean, should they be reminded, or is it still the case that, you know, 10 years is probably the shortest you want to issue the bonds for? Or
That's a good rule of thumb. You know, there's, you know, sometimes that's different, but that is a good way to look at it, that's kind of the minimum because of the costs you have to go through to do a bond issue. 10 years is kind of that good starting point.
So if we're going to look for a big project, let's look for one in the next couple of years so that we could get that bonding completed before 29, so it could be at least 10 years.
Yes.
I guess I had the other question. I noticed that we were getting between 24 and 25, had the same amount of cash invested, but our interest went way down in 25. Anybody know why that went down that much?
I don't know why, other than that's across the board, everything we saw at the county level with interest received from investments, I think. I think it's the rate that the rates that the banks are paying and the Treasury's paying. I think it's going.
Yeah, it's hard to get interest on funds.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a couple of years when the Fed increased the rate to control inflation, that's when we got all the revenue from savings, right? Now that it's being reduced, I mean, that's one of the costs of that.
Or the ratchet down a little bit too.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing here is our fund balance just went down, you know, by quite a bit. So at the end of 24, we just had, you know, 347,000 of cash. So that made a big difference in 25 of how much interest we could earn.
Or we need to look at projects that will occur in 2 years from now.
Here in one of these tables, and I was going to. Okay, on changes in value, that together, we've got our expected TIF revenue, which is running $1 million ballpark. In the past, we're expecting it to be something like that.
Yeah, we expect our TIF revenue for 26 to be just over 3.1 million.
Right. Good. Okay. On page 21, the total revenue.
And we've got a new page, a corrected page, and we'll get that. The report you have does not have the project cost in 26 that Lisa provided to us. So we're going to spend more in 26 than what that shows. So I've got a revised page. I don't know if you guys can see this on the screen or not, but
Is that a revised page for 16?
for page 21.
Okay.
So
Well, just a brief note, you could probably take off the with school payment.
yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, we're committed to that now. Yep.
He says they might fix it because of low mileage.
So the page 21 that you guys have at the bottom, the projects are all blank for 2026. That's not correct.
Okay.
The version I've got on the screen right now shows a Curry Pike reconstruction, 750,000 for 26, and 165,000 for Vernal Pike Connector Road. So with that, our estimated spending for 26 is just over 2.4 million.
Okay.
And that would give us
All right. My question goes up to the top part of this chart,
okay.
where it says total revenue, 2027. The sum of 2.7 million and 3.1 million is not 3.1 million.
We're not including the fund balance in that the total revenue line. So the beginning balance
Okay.
is excluded. So, and we've got some extra things there that were in the past, like that beginning
Okay, so this
balance
is-
from the 20.
This is, when you draw a straight line and then you do a total below it, that would be the sum of the two numbers above it.
Yeah, we need to space that out better. That's a good point. It's the beginning balance should just stand on its own and then have some space after that. So we'll
Because
clean that up too.
There's actually two pieces to this up above. There's the beginning balance, and then there's the one which has to do with estimated TIF revenue, federal funding, total.
Yeah.
So there should be a total balance up above there too.
That begins.
Then we've got the bonds, school payment, the fire truck, and then the items that you just mentioned that need to go into this.
Yep.
And what was your
The end of 26, we have a 1,822,837 is the estimated ending balance for 26.
1,832,000?
822. 1,822,837.
Okay. So this chart should have a subtotal for beginning balance, a subtotal for total revenue, a subtotal for total disbursements, and then an ending balance.
Yeah, we will make that update.
Right. So it's the subtotal for beginning balance that you're missing.
I guess part of what confuses me in this is that we have an estimated TIF revenue, and historically, we've had other revenue components to it, but this year we don't. So your estimated TIF revenue is also your total revenue, and so I don't know if, at least for this year, that could be simplified or not, if that makes sense.
That is our total overall revenue plus the balance.
Well, it does get shown later on. There's a 5. Yeah, just the way that chart is written. I mean,
Yeah. And we'll clean that up. And I think Jeff's got a good point. In the past, we had other revenue besides TIF in there, and the total revenue was more applicable. Now it kind of, it doesn't make as much sense because it's repeating that same number. But I think we can format this better
yes,
and
I
make
think
it,
you can format it so that it's clear.
it's better. Yes. Yep.
Okay. But we're expecting then to end up in 27.
That ending balance will be 2,632,451, and that's after putting 800,000 in for Curry Pike reconstruction
Okay.
in 27.
$1,500,000.
We're on to parcels. I didn't check all these. I'm assuming they're correct because it's a lot of work. That's the base. I noticed that base for 2026 is down by 5 million. I know why
Yeah,
that's
that-
occurred.
That's a result of the formula required by DLGF. So the county auditor has to put in certain things into that.
Okay.
And it's just a mathematical computation. They go parcel by parcel on changes, and they have to determine what if it's a higher value, if it was caused by somebody actually building something new, or if it's trending. And they have to identify that. The same thing with abatement roll-offs. And then there's a final item that they have to enter as far as what, if anything, was demolished or if something became tax exempt. So when they enter all those things in, the DLGF calculation tells them what that new base value has to be.
And I can confirm, I can check with the assessor's office, but my memory is that part of this TIF district is part of that, the complex that has the strip mall off of, with Lowe and all those. So this part of that is contained in there, and one of those businesses had done a major appeal through the assessor's office and got their assessed value reduced by, I don't think the full amount, but by a significant amount that would have.
I know Lowe's did it, but
Yeah.
that was a couple of years ago. Well, that would have only had an effect in the.
Yeah, I think they filed it a couple years ago, but I think it just
All right.
ended.
The reduced tax amount, just.
When I look at the Bloomington Township packet, there is a chart which is called Major Changes in Assessed Value, which is very helpful because it gives me an idea what's going on and what to look for. That was the thing about the hospital. We don't have that for this one. What we've got is the historical values for the property. And so one of the things I did was kind of run my finger down and say, oh, this one's a big difference, this one's a big.
I don't know what this is.
But we do have that on page 18. We do have that similar kind of
Page
parcel
18,
analysis. Yeah.
missing that then.
It's just for a few years because I think at one point in time they had 20 years worth of these major changes all in the same report, and it just got a little burnt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've got, I guess we've got
Okay, so
3
there is
years
one,
worth on
okay, I
page
see
18.
it now.
Yep.
All right. Sorry, missed it. The other thing is to make sure that we've got things. Map is correct. And I didn't see any obvious things in this that weren't here. question was why were some of the things not in it?
I think,
That's a separate issue.
well, and I think the answer to that is twofold. One, there are a few that aren't in it, period. And then at one point in time, if the property was not a taxable property, then it was not included in the TIF district as part of what's in the LAO software.
Okay. But if you're gonna run the map for the others, you might as well run the map.
Oh,
This map would be a little cumbersome to put on.
I've already had that conversation with him, and so I just need to circle back and see where they're at with that.
And the last thing we've got then is the local cost table. Our projections for the future. All right. Anybody got anything else on these?
I would just ask, at the next meeting, or maybe the meeting after that, you guys are going to receive some resolutions asking you to declare whether there is any excess assessed value in any of these TIF districts. And so when we go through these with our financial advisor, I always ask them, going through the 4 reports, do they have any recommendations on how to answer that question?
And Jeff, we recommend the commission capture all of the assessed value in all of the districts for pay 27. And I think we've, as we walk through these, we've identified those costs and debt payments on each of the areas that we do need the TIF revenues for in 27.
One question in regards to that total overall, and this is a question, Jeff, in regards to, is there ever any possibility of doing consolidated TIFs so you could utilize this money into one specific project that the county needs as a whole?
I don't know if that's really possible. Or I guess you have one TIF district that's off on its own that doesn't in any way connect to it, so I don't know how you could consolidate that, right? I think with the expiration dates on the State Road 46 corridor being, 2033? So that's only 7 years. It's 7 years away, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a whole lot of time to really think that consolidation makes a lot of sense. And I think we've already talked about whether Curry Profile and the West Side TIF district should be consolidated. I guess in theory, yes. I actually think instead of consolidation, maybe the more interesting question and the one that we probably should consider is, we've got that 46 corridor that still hasn't really gone, and so does it make sense? We had looked at a residential TIF there. I think there's one property owner that's not with Logan Land Development. They had called me prior to spring break, and we're looking at maybe some kind of multifamily housing, or they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with that property. So, if they were going to do something that would be a high revenue generator, particularly if it's multifamily or something like that, I really think, and plus with how the PUD got changed, where that kind of that northern section across 40.
And what I'm asking is not specifically for that particular one or residential TIF, because we've looked at that, but just as we look at these large projects that need to be done, if we look, we got 10,000 here, we've got 1.5 million on this particular TIF, and of course TIF, given the geographic areas, if it would be consideration to do that, and if you do that, would that allow for the additional sunsetting time to extend longer?
Well, I think once, and Charlie, if what I say is wrong, please step in. But the second you extend the timeline of that TIF, you reset the base. So,
Well,
And
so,
so the State Road 46 has areas where resetting the base may not be a big deal because they haven't developed. And so that's kind of where I was going with it, is that, you look at the areas in those TIFs that haven't developed, and that's where you look at, hey, does it make sense to do something different there?
So let
North of-
me
north of-
just add to that a little bit. So when you consolidate the TIF areas, you do not extend any of the dates of expiration, and you wouldn't reset the base. So the only thing consolidation does is allow you to spend the money in those other areas. It doesn't change the allocation area calculations at all. So West Side would still expire when it currently expires, and the base would still be the same. So consolidation, and Bloomington did this a while back. It just allows them to spend money in that wider area. It doesn't impact collection of TIF revenues. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. That's what I was looking at in regards to. It's just utilized as a financing vehicle in overall area.
Well, then I
Yeah.
guess,
Of any sunsetting or collections, you just pick it out.
And the one
so it
thing.
may make sense for
you-
so it may make sense to think about for Curry and West Side. I'm trying to remember, and I need to get the map out to see how contiguous the State Road 46 and West Side are, right? I just can't remember. I think they are, but I think we'd have to make sure that is the case if you wanted to think about that.
Okay. We have no minutes, have no claims. Staff comment. Lisa, have you got any comments?
I do not.
Staff comment?
No, we'll just, I guess, I assume that you guys, well, I think you guys probably should go ahead and move and vote that we go ahead, make the corrections discussed at this meeting, file the corrected versions of these reports with the county council, and make sure they get put in the gateway by April 15th. So I would comment that motion vote hopefully will happen tonight. Other than that, I mean, this is a great meeting, and I think the next meeting, I've already heard from Dr. Sanders, and we will have the presentation from the RBB.
Given that comment, I'm going to move that we request FSG to prepare a new set of reports with actions. Deliver those to Jeff for submission to go to the council, I believe,
County Council, and then ultimately on into the Indiana Gateway.
and get posted to the Indiana Gateways. That's
Second
by
that.
April 15th.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second. Whoops, do we have to call roll on this?
No, because no one's online, but I'm more than happy to call roll if you want.
Oh, call a roll.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 4-0.
All right, commissioner comments. Randy, you got anything else?
I think we're good. Just
Paul, anything?
Yep, same here. We're good.
I'm good too.
all right.
Get these reports done and filed. Mr. Kreider building a road for us. Let's work on Curry Pike sorted out so we can get started on that.
Bids have been approved, contracts.
Thank you, Charlie.
Commissioners approved the
Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Yeah.
thank you.
Nice.
Meeting adjourned.